Welcome to the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary. This is your host, Scotty B. Friends, today I have a very special guest and a very special episode. I know I've been trying to come out with a little bit more content recently, and I have been talking a little bit before the show, and really just am excited to introduce to you a cosplayer here who's been cosplaying for over 10 years, and I think we have a lot of things to talk about and share. And I'll probably end up getting the name wrong again, just because we did just go over this, and I will probably I'll just murder the name, but it is LiliPopeCosplay, everybody. Did I say
You did it right. Perfect.
Okay, welcome to the show. It is
Thank you.
so great to have you on. So thank you so much for tagging me so that I could see all the amazing things that you have been doing, and that you've been now sharing this journey in cosplay on Instagram. And I would love to hear about your origins in cosplay. You do mention on some of your first posts on Instagram that you made some actually your Slave Leia cosplay. The Hut Slayer cosplay was actually done, or it was altered by a costume designer, right?
Yes.
LiliPond81, which, and I know that you have a twin.
Yes.
So yeah, just I would love to hear all the things. We'll just get you started and just kind of explain your origins and how you got to now.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on. I have been cosplaying a long time. I will inevitably date myself with some of my references. Um, but so to be quite honest, I actually started cosplaying. The first time I cosplayed was in somewhere in 2006, 2007, and I went to this convention that was really popular called Icon on Long Island. I'm from Long Island, New York, and it went for like 30 something years.
Oh, okay.
There's rumors it might come back. Icon was a really, really popular convention, and I was one of my, if not my first convention. And I had someone make a costume for me. I did Toro Honda from Fruits Basket, and I was like so excited because I always wanted to cosplay, and I was in this group, like a club for comic book and science fiction anime fans, and she was like, "Oh, I'll make a costume for you." She's really, really sweet. And so I did it. And then I didn't cosplay for like another uh 6 or so years, because then I cos in any event. So that was my first time
Were there
cosplay.
any cons in the middle, or did
Oh
you
yeah,
just put everything on
I
the
went
show?
to New York Comic Con like religiously. I've been going to New York Comic Con since 2007, 2008.
Oh,
Um
wow.
and there was the New York Anime Festival at the time, and then they merged.
Mhm.
So I went to both at the Javits Center, love the cosplayers. And so I know you mentioned my sister. Actually I have two sisters, but the sister that I cosplay with is my twin sister, Laura. She's Geek Chic Laura on Instagram. And we would go to the conventions together, and we loved the cosplayers, but we had like no idea where to start in terms of like costume making or anything. But we would like get all like, ask for pictures of all the cosplayers,
Mhm.
and in 2012 or 2013, she decided she was going to cosplay at New York Comic Con. And I was a little like, because I was really practical, like in my professional choices, and so in the career, my day job, my career path. So I was like, oh, I'm too serious to cosplay.
I used to think the
I,
same thing.
I'm like,
I'm
I'm
like,
too
no, I
serious.
can't do this.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And but she was so excited, and so I'm like, I'm gonna surprise her. And I put together Katniss Everdeen cosplays because it was really simple
Oh,
to do. Is
okay.
my, so I consider that my first cosplay, even though Toro Honda is technically from Fruits Basket was my first cosplay. And I put together two of the Katniss looks. I did the one from the original movie, and I just went to Party City, and they had like the jackets that they wore, and then I got like the cargo pants, and I put I used red duct tape to make the trim because there's trim on the jacket.
Mhm.
And then I got like a really cheap bow from Party City.
Oh,
And then
that's part of the fun is, being
yeah,
able to source and find kind of the thrifty things
yeah,
because
I did.
it still looks great,
It
like
did,
it still does.
it did. It's funny, I wasn't sure, but I'm like, whatever. It's supposed to be fun anyway. And then I got her Party City also sold at the time, like our Catching Fire. And it was actually pretty good,
Mhm.
the full bodysuit. And I got these like sneakers from like high top wedge sneakers from Target. I have no idea if they were accurate, but they looked like they went. So and I like they had like a white sole. So I used like a Sharpie and I colored it black. And so those are, and she was so thrilled that I did it cosplay with her. And she had like a few. I think she did Velma that year. She had like a few that she did that year. And then that just sort of opened the floodgates. And every year we brought a number of cosplays to New York Comic Con. And we just really like got the bug.
As one does.
Yes, this one does. And then
This
we
is what happens in cosplay. Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that was sort of like a way that starting out, I did a lot of Clara Oswald from Doctor Who, and it was like
Oh,
sort of a way that I could
the
justify.
Impossible Girl. Yes.
Yes, oh
One
my
of my
gosh, I was
favorites.
such a
One of my
Doctor Who
favorite
fan.
companions.
And and it was a way like I could justify spending my money because I could use her clothing in like everyday life, you
Hmm.
know? So anyway, so I did that for a bit, and that's like a different way to cosplay in that um you're hunting down like pieces that they wore on the show. Like I was in a Facebook group, and all the different flower cosplayers helped one another. You would be like either hunting for screen accurate, or you would be hunting for like what she actually wore, or hunting for things that like replicated what she wore. And so that was fun to do. And I've been meaning to break out some of my Clara stuff. I'm actually wearing one of her shirts. This is one of the shirts she wore in one of the episodes, Flatline. And so I figured that was like a fun way to incorporate cosplay without being over the top on the
I
show.
like that you know what the episode's names are
Yeah, I
from.
did. I learned about a group called Saber Guild International in 2015. We were at My sister and I were at this local con that had them there, and it really seemed like a great group, because what they did was they did Star Wars costuming, and they fought with lightsabers, and it was all for charity.
Mhm.
And so once I learned about that, and I learned about the 501st and Rebel Legion, it's such a great community of people. And so I really, really got, and I was a Star Wars fan since as long as I can remember. My dad introduced me to Star Wars, like, when I was a kid. And I know when the movies came out back in theaters, he took me and my sister to see it, and we just loved, who doesn't love Star Wars? And
Oh,
yeah,
I
so
know. I know. Actually, I just picked up new books. I've got the
uh,
another Thrawn trilogy that I have to read.
my husband
Um,
cosplays Thrawn, and
oh,
yeah, he does. And we were like
wow.
working on the makeup and everything, and it's been a really interesting learning experience.
Well, that's so wonderful. Yes, you're definitely a fan of Star Wars, a super fan,
Yes,
loves Star Wars, and you're also kind of a Jean Grey super fan as
I
well.
am.
And as we've been talking about, I've been kind of pitching and talking about Inferno Saga.
Yes,
I was really curious, do you have a favorite series or saga with Jean Grey? Usually people say Dark Phoenix, but
I
it's
know.
always
It's such
interesting
a.
to find out.
I learned of X-Men watching the original Fox animated show. That was like probably like my first introduction to like genre television, because every episode was like to be continued, and I didn't
Hmm.
even, I was like a little kid, but I loved it.
Yes,
Um,
I remember watching it on Saturday morning cartoons, and then it would get so far, it would go to like 5 or 6 episodes in, and then they start all over again, and I'd be like, "No, what are you
I
doing?"
know they didn't always play it.
I've seen Night of the Sentinels so many times in my life because of
Yeah,
that.
the Dark Phoenix saga, I know it's been done so many times in different ways. I'll always be partial to the animated, because that was my first introduction to it from that Fox animated show. But I just love Jean Grey. Jean Grey is such an interesting character. I think, she is such an extremely powerful character,
Mhm.
but she's also like a very selfless character, and she's not the type of she's not going to be necessarily like corrupted herself by that power. I mean, like the Dark Phoenix, obviously, um, she's corrupted by an outside entity like taking over her body. But I find her to be just a really, the fact that she doesn't abuse the great power that she has. She's just like a really giving and caring character. I don't know. I just always was a big Jean Grey fan, and I loved the Phoenix Saga. It's just,
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that it's hard to take a character that has so much content behind her, so many
yeah.
stories, storylines, and not just like kind of gravitate towards the bigger story arcs that she's been
Mhm.
involved with. Not necessarily talking about the new movie or the most recent movie that
Yeah.
came out. We're I'm honestly hoping that they don't do it all over again. I think they've talked about Dark Phoenix a
Mhm.
lot over the last 20 years as far as the X-Men are concerned, but she's such a rich character. I'm glad that they kept her going after Inferno Saga and brought her back. I know that was
Yes.
not something that Claremont wanted to do, but
Yeah.
we're glad to have Jean, and it is really cool to see you doing Phoenix and
Mhm, mhm.
just doing all of that. You know, you do so much. You have so many cosplays that you've come out
Yeah.
with, and so much that you share. But you're also a mom as well as a cosplayer. And
Yeah.
I know, there I do have several friends in the community who do balance the home life and work life, family and cosplay.
Mhm,
And it's always just wonderful to see families sharing that space.
mhm.
And the cosplay aspect of their life has actually given them something positive to connect with their children. And I just wondered, like how do you find that balance? And how do you, like, is it something that you think that you would be inspired by or that you would work towards, in terms of like parents and children, and like how would you interact with your own children?
My son is about to be 10 months old this week. Becoming a mom is probably like the craziest thing that's ever happened in my life. It's kind of insane. This time last year, I was like so pregnant.
Hmm.
Pregnancy was not easy for me. He was healthy the whole time, so that's the most
It's
important
good.
thing.
Yeah.
For me, was cosplaying for a long time. And then I had like a lot of fears of like, am I still going to be able to cosplay after I become a mom? And my costume's going to fit anymore? Um, what will life look like? I mean, that's just a small slice of, what I was thinking about as I was
Hmm.
becoming a mom for the first time. But it's been really good so far. We've been able to take, my husband and I, we take, our Sunterra conventions. We do a lot of like usually I like a lot of the cons we go to, we're doing work with the Star Wars charity groups, whether it be Saber Guild, 501st, Rebel Legion. And it's a great, great, great group of people in the
Oh
Long
yes.
Island, New
Hmm.
York area, especially, and they're all super understanding and helpful. So we're able to sort of balance, still doing the charity work that's really important to us and cosplaying and being part of the community while also, having a little one. Um, for Halloween, we did a number of cosplays together as a family. So I do Daphne, um, Blake from Scooby Doo. My husband, he's Zephisto cosplay on Instagram. He is Fred Jones. So he cosplays Fred Jones from Scooby Doo. And so we had our son be Scooby. We put him in a little Scooby costume. And we also did a Spider-Verse cosplay. Um, thing as a family, and which included our dog. She had like a little Spider Woman
Oh.
cosplay costume that I put her in. um so yeah, I like to do like the different family ones. I have like a lot of other family cosplays that I'd like for us to do together. We've put him like at conventions, we've made him Grogu or Yoda or an Ewok. So we've done like a lot of the Star Wars one, R2D2. I did like the little onesies and stuff. So yeah, we like to do it as a family. I mean, ultimately, like as he gets older, if it's not his thing, that's fine too. Just be like, okay, my parents are weirdos and they dress up in costume.
Yeah,
I'm
my
gonna
mom
go
and dad
be,
cosplay. I
I know,
don't
I'm gonna go like
know.
be a jock or something and play football. Although jocks can cosplay too. Cosplay is for everyone.
Yes,
Um,
cosplay is for everyone. There are a few
yeah,
characters from like, Stranger Things that I'm sure some jocks might be
yeah,
able to cosplay. But
yeah,
no, but
yeah,
I think it's all really just wonderful. It's wonderful that, and I think sometimes we forget that, cosplay is a family friendly area.
yes,
Conventions are really kind of they're designed for families as a family event, going and being able to share the fandoms in that way. And it's always so great to see it when when a family can come together and share that. I just think
yeah.
it's just so much fun to see just the different things that people come up with. So when I hear like, got the baby Yoda, and
Yeah,
everybody's
it's so
theme
fun.
in Star Wars, it's just so much fun.
We like so like we do a lot with the storage groups is like all kid friendly. So like with our temple with Saber Guild is Endor Temple, and we do like a lot of kids training. We call it the Padawan Training Institute, and so it's like all interacting with kids, and so we meet a lot of families who are coming. Even before we had our son, we were like interacting with a lot of families who came to the cons together, and they were a lot of times in group costumes, or siblings that they made the children coordinate, or sometimes the children just did whatever they wanted, and in terms of costumes. But yeah, it's really fun to play the characters for kids, especially when they're so little and they really think that you're a Jedi from a galaxy far, far away, or you know I've done Princess Belle at conventions,
Sure.
and a little girl or boy will come up and be like, oh, you're Princess Belle, and they want pictures, and you can give them that. Experience is so fun. I mean, the kids are so cute. And with the Star Wars groups too, we do like hospital visits and things like that. And so that's a really nice way that we can give back and create like a fantasy experience for kids who are experiencing something that no kid should experience. Um,
Mhm.
so it's nice that cosplay can be really used in a really family friendly and kid friendly way to just put smiles on people's faces and give really positive experiences.
Absolutely is. Absolutely. And you have done characters from the Star Wars universe. You've also created some of your own characters for
Yes.
Star Wars. Would love to just hear about some of the inspiration for the characters that you created. And you've mentioned giving back to the community. I think you've given
Mhm.
to several causes, one being the Stony Brook Children's Hospital,
Yes.
and others to just name names as we're going through. But
Yeah.
yeah, tell me about some of your characters. And I have lots of things to talk about Mara Jade, but you can get started here, and
RJ.
we'll probably have a conversation about that as well.
Going back to Saber Guild, we costume as the good, both good and bad guys from the Star Wars universe, but they all have to be Force users and lightsaber users,
Hmm.
because we do stage choreography, and we do training with the kids, and we so a lot of our characters are original characters, like original Jedi and Sith, inspired by like the prequel trilogy concept of like how those costumes were designed. And so I did Kiana, my Sith first, was my first original character, is my first character or costume in general in the Star Wars costuming groups.
Hmm.
So I have like affection for it. I definitely like play her as like a very like hammy Disney villain because I don't want to scare kids. I try to make her really, really fun for the kids. She's a little bit like over the top and diva-ish, and I just really try to have fun with her. And then my Jedi is Meg Eden. I wanted to have just a Jedi character to, because like a lot of times like with our events, um, you know, we try to see who's available, and try to have like an even number of Jedi and Sith. And so it's good to have both costumes so that I could just fill in wherever um, they need me to fill in.
Mhm.
And Meg Eden is a lot of fun. She's like kind of like goody two shoes, Girl Scout, Boy Scout kind of character. I have fun. I think I have more fun probably playing Kiana because I can really make her over the top, whereas the Jedi, are a little bit more stiff and serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they get a little stoic.
And then I have Ray, I do for Saber Guild and Rebel Legion.
Yes.
And Ray is really fun. Um, to play. I do a really, really corny British accent. I will not replicate it here. The kids don't mind. Yeah, and so my latest is Mara Jade, who I was so excited to bring to life. I'm not sure, in terms of kids, if they're gonna know who she is, in terms of like actually recognizing her as Mara Jade, but I'm sure that they will, when I break her out, they'll still enjoy hopefully interacting with her.
The Mara Jade stories, and I
Yeah.
don't know how many of the books that you've read, but
Yeah.
that is just like those are just the best. Mara Jade is just
I
such a great
know.
character.
I wish they could bring her in,
Yeah,
like the
that's
TV
exactly.
shows.
They
The
need her
TV
on
shows,
Disney
they can
Plus.
find a way. Please, Disney Plus. I just feel like, I obviously her story is not going to follow what we
Mm.
saw in the books necessarily, but like I have seen like fan suggestions out there of how you could potentially introduce her, and there are good ideas, and like just I feel like the shows are just a really good way. They could find a way to bring her in. They brought in Thrawn, I mean, I know
They did.
Thrawn is not
Mm.
as tied, Mara Jade is really tied to Luke Skywalker. And a lot of things that have happened cannot happen anymore because of the way the sequel trilogy went. But they're creative. They're really creative. They can find a way to bring her in.
Yeah, well,
Um,
we did skip quite a few years, and
right.
that they ended Mandalorian the way that they did. I think that they're if they have another season of Mandalorian, I think maybe they need to like bring her in
Right.
some way
Yeah,
or more.
that's like
I think they do.
perfect. It would be perfect. I think the fans, we would like all die.
I would go
Like,
bonkers. I'd be like, suddenly
I know,
the price increase for Disney is like
I know, I
justifiable.
know. She's great. I mean, she's so fun. Like when I put that costume on, I mean, I just feel like like I'm gonna kick butt. I just feel amazing in it, and she's a fun costume and character to have because she's one of like the only characters that within the Star Wars group she's approvable across the board because she is there's a joke in Saber Guild when they were looking at the costume, is she Sith or is she Jedi? And it's like both,
She's a
because
hybrid. Yeah.
she's really can be dark side, light side, which is fun. Um, yeah, so that's my latest Saber Guild character.
Just
Yeah.
I mean, and whenever you post Mara Jade, I'm always like, I want to share this because it's
I
just
have to
like,
give credit to Amazing, the Etsy vendor, and she's on Instagram too. I think I want to say she's in 501st, but maybe in Florida. Scarlet Stitchery, she made the costume, and
oh,
yeah, amazing. So I have to give like a million props to her. I sent her a message not like maybe a week or two ago being like, you made my dreams come true. This costume is amazing. Uh,
I'll have to ask you about that after the show so that because I want a Luke Skywalker
Oh, she
But
does, I think.
there's always like a year-long wait to try and
Yes,
get
she
it.
does, I believe, Return of the Jedi Luke because I'm looking for my husband to do it. Yeah, I love Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. That like full
Mhm.
black is such a killer costume, and and he's just Luke Skywalker's at his peak
Yes.
in that movie,
Yes.
and yeah, I think I want to say she does it. I don't want to misspeak, but and then Darman, if I'm pronouncing it right, Darman Props did my leather work for the costume.
Oh, well
And
done.
yeah, they're on Instagram and on Etsy. So really great vendors that helped me make that costume come to life.
Yes, and you're familiar with her universe too, which
Yeah, I'm
is kind
such a
of
Herman fan.
a very cool and very appealing, fashion for fandom
Yes.
showcase. I know that they have several cosplayers, or more than that, who showcase their collection and who even appear on their website. Jacobella Luongo guests the show is on their website. They have, many different fandoms: Star Wars, Harry Potter, Disney, Marvel. What do you think about her universe? And, is it, do you really think that that they provide, fandom apparel is really, was kind of like a cool idea and very appealing for that brand?
Oh, goodness. I was just thinking the other day, I wish like when in my younger years, I'm a big Buffy fan and I
Oh,
love
okay.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I
Yes.
was just thinking like, oh man, I wish like when I was younger, like something like her universe existed and I could have got like really fashionable, cool, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer inspired outfits. And they just didn't have, at least I didn't know of, and maybe there was, but the media outlets
There really
have,
wasn't much.
yeah,
No, and
I
Buffy
mean,
was so popular. I mean,
yeah, and I
I
don't
watched
remember
it.
I
So,
love Buffy. Oh my goodness. I mean,
Buffy and Angel, yeah, those were
yeah,
staples.
I just was such a mega fan. I'm still a mega fan despite my complicated, maybe not so complicated feelings about Josh Whedon. Not to get into something that's probably a controversial topic, but um, you know, Josh Whedon aside,
Hmm.
love, love, love Buffy. And yeah, they just didn't have, at least I didn't know of, like fashion. So then her universe came along and, they have fashion items like across the board, whether you want to be really, really girly, you want to be more goth, you want to be sporty, and all the different fandoms from like really, really subtle to, like bordering like costumes as fashion and things like that, which is really cool. Like I have pieces that I can incorporate into my work wardrobe and no one would like know that they're related to fandom.
Hmm.
I have like a Star Wars blouse. It's probably a few years old now. That has like the different like as like powder blue, and it has like different like the X-wing and things like that on it, but like really subtle pattern. And it's like no different than like, I put on a suit jacket. It's almost like the equivalent of a novelty tie that a man might wear, you know. um I have like her a newer Belle shirt that she just did. And that is just like a yellow top that I can wear with slacks and no one would know. But then on like the other end, like I have this mini dress that is like almost like Minnie Mouse cosplay that I wore as a Disney bound when I was just in Disney. And I had my husband dressed as Mickey because he's a really good sport.
Well, good for
My
him.
husband is a really good sport.
Hmm.
Um, and so he dressed as Mickey, and we had our son as Pluto, like Disney bound as
Oh,
Pluto. It was really cute. And we did the character meal like that, and the characters come around, and they were so excited to see. My son especially is Pluto. Like the character actor who was playing Pluto was like so excited, and they, we had fun. I just love that there's all these options to kind of like represent the things that I love in a way that's, subtle. I guess it like goes back to like, like I like being able to, even in like my regular day, if I can incorporate something that's sort of like a nod to a fandom that I like I put Clara Oswald, I can incorporate like her pieces into my daily wardrobe because they don't look like costumes. And it's the same thing with like her universe. It's just a way to express my love of certain fandoms in a way that can be subtle and not necessarily over the top, and is still really fashionable. And I like fashion just generally. I just posted because I was so excited. They did the holiday collection, and they had both Christmas and Hanukkah, and we're an interfaith family. So I'm
Hmm.
Catholic and my husband's Jewish. And the fact that there were like Hanukkah clothing that was like with Disney, um, I was like just really excited because it's hard sometimes to find. I like everything to be even,
Hmm.
especially, with my, now we have our son too, and he's going to be learning about both our faiths. I want everything to be even, but there's so much Christmas stuff, and finding like the same amount of Hanukkah stuff is sometimes not always easy. So I was really excited that they represented both faiths in their latest holiday collection. My husband was really excited. He's always excited when there's something that, he can find that represents his Jewish faith and culture.
No, it's very cool. Yeah, and any time that there's a blend, I think that's great. And it's also great, anything interfaith, and I know it's probably not the most popular thing to say online at all, but it's really just nice when everybody can get together and that there can be that harmony and agreement. Usually I say fandom is the place where we can all come and hang our
Yeah.
hats and have something that we can all enjoy and talk about, and not have that I'm the only person who can cosplay X, Y, and Z, you know,
Yeah, I
conversation.
know.
I'm the only cosplayer who does, but
Oh my God, that's
when
crazy.
people get together at cons and everybody shares that, like it's kind of just that sort of unifying conversation, and it's nice when when there can be other facets of that that come into different parts of our life and bring
Mm,
us together like that.
mm,
I just think that's
yeah.
just amazing. One other thing that I did want to talk about for her universe was there is some apparel for the 13th Doctor, Jodie
Yes. Oh, I
Whittaker.
can't believe I
Uh,
forgot to even talk about that.
Jodie is one of my favorites, even though she's possibly not acclaimed as one of the greatest doctors of the
Mm,
series, but she's one of my favorites. I like Jodie and other things, but as the doctor, I thought she did an amazing job. And I
mm,
know that you did put together a cosplay, which you had mentioned was amazing and empowering,
yeah.
together, and that you are a fan of the doctor, obviously, Clara,
Mm,
and other things we've already talked about, both on and off
yeah.
of the show. But would love to hear more about your doctor,
Right.
and just, I mean, really just what you enjoy about Doctor Who in general.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate to be able to get from her universe the 13th Doctor, the whole look. It was a really easy way to source the costume. Because I was so excited for there to be a female doctor. Um, I love being Clara Oswald, and the companions I think are really, really important part of the show.
Mhm.
But there's nothing like being the doctor. Like when I put it on, I'm like, I'm the doctor. It's really amazing. It's one of those costumes that you feel really, really good in. Um, at least I feel really good in it. And uh, yeah, I was really, really happy that her universe had all that available. Um, and I actually recently I wore it yesterday to Ally Who, the Long Island Doctor Who convention.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
awesome.
the first time I wore it at a con because I put it together and then the pandemic happened. So I had like a lot of, so like, you know, I've been putting out a lot of content, um, but a lot of it's like I've had these cosplays for like a long time. So it's not, I mean, I do get new costumes because that's, what I've done even before I was really on Instagram posting my cosplays. I was always getting new stuff. But I also have like a lot of old stuff. So it's like really easy for me to like, I guess I keep creating content because I have so much of it. So it was one of those that I put together in um probably 2020 or like 2019, 2020, and didn't have an opportunity to wear it because the pandemic happened to any con. Um, and so I finally got to wear it at a con. I broke it out this weekend and it was really great. I'm with you that I think the 13th Doctor is amazing. I was a really, really big fan. I generally like, I don't have any problems with any of the new Who Doctors. I can't say I'm as familiar with like classic Who, beyond like having read about it. I haven't watched a lot of classic Who. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah,
yeah,
I can't say that I really started in when they rebooted everything. And I think David Tennant was really the doctor that kind of brought me back into the
yeah.
show. And, like Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi,
Mhm.
I'll be forgetting people. But all of the newer doctors have been enjoyable in their own
Yeah,
way.
that's how I
But
feel.
Jodie's been cool. I mean, she's kind of a blend of several doctors, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I liked the style. I liked the approach that she had. It was much lighter
Hmm.
than other doctors have been.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think
I
that,
agree.
and say what you will about the writing and the course of and trajectory of the show, but I just thought that, the character was fun. And I like to see when people, share that. And, like when you cosplay the character, that you really do a very good job of cosplaying her.
Yeah, Doctor Who, like a show that will always ebb and flow. And I think that that's one of the reasons why, which is it's different than a lot of other shows because a lot of other shows, when there's like a cast change or something, you know, there's a question of like, well, you should just end the show, like why are
Hmm.
you continuing with a different cast or whatever? But that's sort of what makes Doctor Who so unique is that it is supposed to be this constantly evolving um project where you're going to have new doctors, new people coming in as the doctor and putting their own spin and twist on it. You're going to have new companions coming in. I feel like that's just part of the Doctor Who experience. Like it's always going to be there's going to be different takes, different, writing, different um companions, doctors. But that's like part of the ride, I guess.
It is, and I think people forget about like where this came from and where it went. Like, I mean, the older episodes, like if you go back and watch some of the older ones, like they're pretty hammy, they're pretty
Yeah, yeah, I
cheesy,
know.
like it's cheesy sci-fi.
Yeah,
And but without that, we would not be where we are now.
yeah,
So I think where we are now is maybe people will look back on that many doctors from now and go, okay, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't we wouldn't have gotten
yeah.
here. So.
And I feel like Doctor Who is not necessarily shouldn't always be because of like its history. Like I don't. It's always supposed to have like a little bit of a charm to it. So I don't know
Mhm.
if it should always take itself so seriously. I always feel like it needs to have that sort of. It's always got to be fun in some way. I guess is what like how I feel. Even like I was a big fan of, even though I know he was kind of like maybe people were split. I was a really big fan of 12. I really like Peter Capaldi.
I did
As,
too. He's one of my
yeah, I
favorites.
loved
Yeah.
him. And I know people like
Some did
weren't
not.
sure, but
Mhm.
there is still an element of, even though he was kind of like a serious doctor, there is an element of fun that I think that was still there. And
And they're not easy shoes to fill. I mean,
yeah,
with every doctor, you've got one more and you're like, "Oh boy, how do
yeah.
I even come close to what everybody else has already done with this character?" So there's just so much to consider, and I think yeah, they've done really well.
Yeah.
They Jodie did a great job as a
And the
doctor.
companions are so important. I think like people
Yes.
forget about how important like the companions and like that chemistry is because
Hmm.
I think there's always a lot of focus on who the doctor is, but the companions make like a big difference. And, I have companions that I'm more fond of than other companions. Obviously I was a big Clara fan. Although like her character arc is kind of interesting, like the way she was with Matt Smith's 11, versus her story arc with Peter Capaldi
Hmm.
as 12. Is interesting, like the trajectory kind of changed a little bit. But I still overall really like Clara's storyline. I wasn't as like fond of the pawns, although there were like elements that I liked about the pawns. Um, but like I was like so on the pawns, so then I think that kind of like didn't make me enjoy Eleven's run as much. um, because the puns over like was a big part of Eleven's run. Um, Even though I like the individual actors, I was just like so on puns for whatever reason. Yeah, so like I think like the companions make like a big difference too.
They do. I mean, yeah, it's all part of like the story arc and just how they're weaved in and out of the plot and
Yeah,
just the impact that they have on the doctor and how
yeah.
he, like all just there's so much going on. I think that's also just the big draw for me to the Doctor as opposed to some other fandoms is just how completely immersive it is. I mean, you could watch an episode of the Doctor and feel like you've been sitting there for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's just like you just get so sucked in to some of the episodes. So people, friends, if you haven't seen if you haven't seen Doctor,
Watch
if you
Doctor
can
Who.
if you can figure out which streaming service it's actually on anymore,
I
uh,
think it's gonna be on Disney Plus, which is like
oh,
crazy. Like Disney Plus, isn't Disney Plus like getting Doctor Who now? I feel like that was like an announcement or something. If I,
possibly.
I jumped it.
I uh, I can eliminate several. I know it's not on Netflix or Peacock. I
Yeah.
think it's moved off of HBO. I don't think it's on BBC. So I'm thinking it might end up on
I thought
Disney
there was like
Plus.
some sort of big announcement, and I was like,
Mhm.
how is now Disney's gonna have Doctor Who too on top of Star Wars and Marvel and everything? But yeah, I uh, Doctor Who is really interesting too because it can like go like one episode can be like historical science fiction, a next episode could be like in the present. Then you can have like really like like hardcore science fiction, outer space.
Mhm.
Then so, there's like all different levels like and different genres that get weaved in. So you never know kind of what you're gonna get with each episode. I tend to like the historical ones. Maybe I was like a history major, and so I tend to really like a lot of the history ones. But they're all really good.
As we close out the show, I did want to talk about one other alien character and one that you've cosplayed before, and that other cosplayers have said kind of brought them outside of their comfort zone in Starfire.
Yeah,
And I know that was one that you yourself wasn't too sure about that you were going to do. We're glad that you did. It did turn out just
thank
fantastic. It was
you.
a marvelous cosplay. The detail and just all the work that you put into the coloring, attention to the makeup, which just made everything come together and just be so fantastic for the character. Really would love to hear about how you have grown
Mhm.
and come to embrace some of the cosplays that do take you outside of your comfort zone, but instead, even with that, empower you and kind of take you into a new phase of your cosplay journey.
And to take a step back, so as I've said a few times, I've been cosplaying a really long time, and I did it and still do it for fun and for like to just bring positivity into the world. Cosplay for, like I said, cosplay for a cause and things like that. But in terms of like starting my Instagram journey and like posting on Instagram and like sharing my cosplay in that sort of way, that started because I was just looking for an outlet to be seen and beyond like my mom title. But I love being a mom, so I don't want it to come across as in a way that I cherish my son. I love him, and I love, love, love being a mom. But I think something that happens to women is that they sort of get labeled by their mom titles, and sometimes they don't always get seen for being more than just a mom, or at least, I was really concerned about that. And I struggled a lot with body image issues even before I was pregnant. But definitely, gaining 90 pounds on my small frame, and then, being postpartum and
Mhm.
experiencing a lot of issues postpartum. I just was trying to find ways to like, forge an identity. And so I started my Instagram page in part because I planned this great shoot with Eddie Giron on he's on Instagram. and I did my Hutzleia beach photos because I had lost all my weight. I was really excited to, kind of be like, I am like finish my, no, I have never finished, didn't finish my postpartum journey, but I, you know, was kind of like feeling like me again, after having, you know, experienced a lot while pregnant and postpartum. And I was just feeling like myself. And even though, I did lose my weight to go back to my pre-pregnancy weight, my body's still really different because, that's what happens.
Hmm.
And so I just wanted to sort of like celebrate myself, my body, in terms of like what it accomplished and like the journey that it had been on. And so I did that shoot. And then from there, uh I was like, let me start this Instagram page, because Eddie was tagging me, and I had my private Instagram, but I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this a really long time, and it's nice to be seen beyond just being like a mom, even though I love being a mom. Um, I'm like a person still. I'm still a woman. I'm still want to be seen. And so that definitely, doing Hutzleia definitely brought me out of my comfort zone, out of my comfort zone into a place. It was a costume that I actually done before I was pregnant in 2019, and helped me kind of get over a lot of hangups that I had, uh about body, about even just like expressing myself, um and feeling comfortable in my own skin.
Hmm.
So I did it in 2019, and then I cosplayed her a couple of times at different like Rebel Legion events. And so that costume was actually put together by Biru Props, and I had it modified by Lily Pond, 81, because she helped me just get it so that I could get it approved by Rebel Legion, because they have certain costuming standards. So she was a wonderful help, and Bureau Props did a great job on the costume overall. But
Yes,
in
they
any
did.
event,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I
Very
always
well
like to give
done.
credit to and then Eddie did an amazing job photographing it. And in any event, to get back to your original question, it was like a really long way. So Starfire was a costume that I wanted to do for a long time. Watching Teen Titans, actually, the
Hmm.
animated show. So a lot of like the animated programming was such like a, opened the gates for a lot of the comic book universe for me. It was like my first foray into a lot of it. And so I watched a lot of the DC animated shows like Batman, Superman. I loved the Justice League animated show. I still
Oh,
think
it's so great.
it's
It really is.
superb. I'm like, why
I loved
can't
every episode.
the movies copy
Right?
this? They're so perfect. I think it's just like almost flawless. I can get close to saying flawless because I just loved it. Starfire was a character from the DC universe that I really wanted to cosplay, but I was intimidated for the makeup. I was
Hmm.
like, how am I going to do this makeup? And I had bought the cost. There was another COVID costume that kind of like sat there, um, and I didn't do much with it. I should have used the pandemic to learn how to do the makeup, but I guess I was too busy just being like, are we ever going to be free of this pandemic? And I got married in 2020. So I was like trying to plan a wedding during a pandemic. Um, so that was fun. Um, uh, so then postpartum, though, that costume did not fit the same way because it cuts in like a way that's just in an interesting place for a postpartum belly.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of like not sure about it, but I did the makeup. I was, we put our son to sleep, my husband and I. He's a very good sleeper. And I'm like, let me just try the makeup because I keep being intimidated by this makeup and I just need to do it. And I have the makeup. So let me just try it. And orange is a little less intimidating than some of the other colors. You're always learning as you're learning how to do the makeup. And like as we've been working with different makeup, we use I hope I'm pronouncing it right because I read it Meron,
Oh
MEH
yeah,
Sharon.
Marin.
I hope I'm
Hmm.
pronouncing it right. They're great, and we talked to them at New York Comic Con too, and they give us really, really good advice and like brushes to get to like better apply, and they work great. I'm like, are you just selling me something? And like, no, it's just like the right thing. Um, so, and when I saw the pictures, I have to say I had like mixed feelings because I wasn't like super pleased with my postpartum body. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share them. So it took me like a few days and then I posted and they were really well received. So I was happy about that. I did end up buying a different version of that costume, or of her costume. So the original one I had was the one that is midriff bearing. And it just, as I said, didn't cut in the greatest place. I had that problem with my Padme battle arena costume too now. It's just like, my body is different. So I have to
Hmm.
think about how I want to approach those costumes now in the future. It might just be like, you know, like I just have to like be commission commission it to be the right proportions for me now. Um, but in any event, I got the full body suit and I just felt like even like 10 times better and it just like was more flattering for my current figure, or at least I felt so. And one of the things is I just want to feel like good in my own skin, and that's like part of like my cosplay journey now is besides all the charity work and stuff, it's about building myself up and others up and just trying to be like really like positive about everybody feeling good about themselves because I think that's really important. So I haven't tried though the orange makeup with the new version of Starfire, and I'm really eager to do that. I had hoped to do it for New York Comic Con because I wore the costume and I got some photos with a cosplay photographer. It is cosplay, but I didn't do the orange makeup just because it takes a while to do it. And I had my son and like just getting from Long Island to the city with him, it was just, too much. So I had to
Oh yeah,
forego
it's a lot.
putting
Yeah.
the orange makeup on. Although we did do my husband's drawn makeup. I'm working on another cosplay right now that will involve changing the color of my skin
Hmm.
to green, if that's a hint. And so I'm going to be experimenting more with the face coloring and doing like those fun, different colors. I think it will be fun. So I hope I do well with making myself green. We shall see. I think I did okay with making my husband blue. Uh, so we'll see.
Oh no, cannot wait to see the next things that you do.
Mhm.
I have my guesses about who might be green that you might be cosplaying, but I
Yeah.
will I won't spoil anything. I don't want to give anything
I'm
away.
very excited.
Uh
I've kind of hinted at it already. It is definitely like a little meta for me, which I think is appropriate given the character. I probably given away too much, but already green and meta. I wonder who it could be. Um,
but for all of the things that are going to be coming out and for what you are doing now, where can we find you and how can we support you online?
thank you. I am on Instagram, Lily. I'm sorry, Lily Pope Cosplay. And I'm really only on Instagram. I just started a TikTok and I'm not really sure if TikTok is for me. I did my first reel today on YouTube and I shared it on TikTok. It's the same, Lily Pope Cosplay. Um, I don't know. The people who do videos, I give them a lot of props because that is like a lot of work. It's already a lot of work doing like the photos and stuff and like putting the
Hmm.
cosplay together. But like the videos is like a whole other level. And so, yeah, I don't know, if I will, do a lot of video content. If I had more time, I would love to, because I think people are doing great stuff. But I'm mostly just on Instagram. I try to post like once a day of like new content or and try to do some like older things that I've had for a while, and then while I'm working on some newer stuff and.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely, friends, do find and follow Lily Pope Cosplay on Instagram and everywhere else that she is putting content. Very excited to see what you're doing. And thank you again so much for taking the time to be on the show. Really, I could probably just go on and on. I think we have a lot to talk about, and
Yeah, I know.
it's just
I'm
been so
such a
great having
talker.
you.
So I give props to your audience for like listening to my long rambling.
Oh, it's always a lot of fun. I do like to have I like to mix it up. I like to have longer episodes so that guests can talk about all of these wonderful things that they work on. And then, I do like my little 5-minute rants here and there.
It's easy
So
to just keep talking
yes, I
sometimes.
mean, and I think it's a good balance. And I just really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a ton of things that's just
Mhm.
going on. I mean, being a new mom, and thank you very much to your son for allowing you to come on the show as well here after bedtime and be here with us. It's just been really amazing.
Mhm.
And yes, that is pretty much all we have for you today, folks. Thanks again so much for being here, friends. This is Scotty B with Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary saying bye-bye.